Hey everyone, it's February the 17th of 2022. It's Thursday. I'm on my way home from work. It's a pretty good work day. We sold a lot of parts today. Thanks to all the people stealing converters around Columbus. I wish you wouldn't do that, but it sure makes for a good sales day. So, I wanted to talk about the show Power. I started watching Power about 2 years after it started. One of the guys I worked with, his name was Marvon, but we call him Bezo. Bezo the Shooter. And he watched the show and introduced me to it. I liked it from the first episode. The plot was good, the characters were good. It was just something that I really hadn't seen before. But it was very good. I followed it through all the seasons. We watched it through all the seasons, and it ended a couple years ago. They did a spin-off with Ghost's son, Tariq, going to college and dealing with the aftermath of what happened. And they did another spin-off about Kanan, who's 50 Cent, showing his youth and how he got into the whole business and everything. And now they've just started a new spin-off, Power Book 4, Force, and it's all about Tommy. Tommy's my favorite character. He's kind of cool. He doesn't give a shit what he says. He's going to be him, no matter what. He's got balls the size of the Statue of Liberty. And, I mean, he's just fun. A little crazy at times, but he is. So the new show started. We've seen 2 episodes already. It comes on Sunday night on Stars or the Stars app. But we watched first 2 episodes. And basically, Tommy's leaving after everything that happened in New York City. He's going to California, and on the way there, he makes a side trip to Chicago. He has a grandmother in Chicago. He hasn't been there since he was a kid. He really didn't know anything about her. But he stops to see her, and ends up, a bunch of stuff happens. He finds out he has a brother that he never knew, a half-brother. He finds out he meets his girl, hooks up with her, and basically ends up sticking his nose into some trouble with her. These guys kind of disrespect him, that are drug/mafia guys, I'm thinking. One of their guys is kind of giving some smack to the lady that he met. She owns a bar. And Tommy starts business with the guy and breaks his arm and takes his phone and works his way into a drug meet. Takes care of business in the Tommy way. It all catches up to him. I'm just going to call them a mafia family. But they basically meet him, get the stuff back. Tommy took some of their money. They meet him, get their stuff back, and tell him thank you very much for helping our son. Now get the fuck out of our city. And of course, Tommy doesn't listen. So the show's going off from there, you know. When he worked his way into the drug meet, he met one of the guys from CBI, which was a gang, you know. Helped them out, and they were actually appreciative of a little bit of it. Kind of were and kind of weren't. But the main guy in this gang, him and Tommy end up working together a little bit, kind of forced together. And Tommy does some stuff in crazy, typical fashion. And he decides he's staying there. He's getting the lay of the town. He's going to work his way into some shit and, you know, see what happens. So it's taken off really good. It's the best of the spin-offs so far. I don't know if it's going to be better than Power or as good as Power, but it's the best so far. So Sunday nights at 9 on Stars. Check it out. Tommy's a good character. So there's that. Yesterday we talked about Star Trek and Star Wars a little bit. I actually recorded the Stars thing yesterday, but I rambled on with it for about 15 minutes. When I went back through to edit and do everything, it was just 15 minutes of me rambling. So I realized that's really what these videos are to begin with, but 15 minutes about power was just a little bit too much. So I've talked about Star Wars, Star Trek, power. I'm not sure what else to talk about. I'd like to make a video about Revenge of the Nerds. It's something I could talk about all day long because I've seen it 50 gazillion times. The first week we got a VCR in 1980 something. Sound like the Goldbergs. It was 1980 something. But we got a VCR. We actually got a Betamax. And went to, in Toledo, there was a place called Video Connection. And they had a deal where you could rent, it was like 12 movies. Maybe it was 8 movies. You could rent them Thursday, and you had to return them Tuesday. You got them for a whole weekend for like $10. The first movie I picked out was Revenge of the Nerds. Now, I didn't know what it was going to be like. I knew that it sounded funny. It's about some guys in college. Okay, it looks good. Nerds. I was kind of a nerd, so that sounds good. And it was the early 80s, so, you know, they were still just getting out of that whole 70s TNA, where every movie was nothing but sex, or at least tits and ass. So they were starting to get out of that and get into real, you know, storylines and movies without having that. Revenge of the Nerds had good storyline, it had good plot, but it did. I mean, it showed some scenes that, you know, that was the 80s. It's, you know, you didn't have so much of it, but you still always had some good topless shots of girls. But Revenge of the Nerds, apparently, the company didn't have any faith in it when they were making it. I don't know whether it was the fact that they're using these 20-something and 30-year-old people as high school, basically right out of high school kids. Or that they thought it was going to be an offshoot of Animal House. But the company that made it didn't want to put money into it. They did hardly any advertising. They expected it to come out and bomb. And it came out and just blew people away. People were seeing this movie and just like crazy. They didn't even open it at many theaters, and it was packed. Like the second or third week that it was out, they actually then started spreading it out countrywide to more theaters. You know, a typical movie, I'm gonna say, in the late 90s, probably came out with 3,000 theaters. I don't know what it was in the early 80s, but Revenge of the Nerds, I think, opened up with a couple hundred, from what I read. But everybody was flocking to see it. It never made a ton of money on its initial release, and that's because of their lack of preparation. But if you haven't seen it, and I can't imagine people haven't seen Revenge of the Nerds, but there's several nerdy college kids that are just starting college, and it really focuses on two of them, Lewis and Gilbert. They've been friends their whole life, and they're going to college, and I mean, they're just total nerds. They don't wear jeans. They're wearing, you know, khakis and white button-down shirts with pocket protectors full of pens. Their glasses with tape in the middle of it. you know, and they go to college and they get in their dorm rooms and things are going okay. And the jocks, the alpha betas, accidentally burned down their frat house. I don't know how this would work, but somehow the university decides the football players need somewhere to stay, so they let them have the freshman dorms. And the freshmen, who have already paid for their dorms, you would think, have to go live in the gym to find somewhere else to live. And, you know, the nerds get their own house. They find a house for rent. They fix it up. Typical 80s montage. But they go to live there, and they decide they're going to try. They apply at all these fraternities, and none of them will have them. But they apply at Lambda Lambda Lambda. Part of their charter says any new house can petition to become probationary tri-lambs for a certain time period. They have to allow it. So they become Lambda Lambda Lambda, and they have a party. You know, just stuff happens to them. The nerds are constantly gumming at them and playing tricks on them and putting them down. The girls, which is the I can't think of the name of the girls. The pies. Yeah. So the pies and the alpha betas are always playing stuff on them. The nerds end up hooking up with these the sorority called the Moos, the Omega Moos. And, you know, I always think of Booger. Not the Moos. They're a bunch of pigs. But they hook up. They have their party. And, you know, they get back at both of them. They do a panty raid with the pies, which is really just a front for them planting video cameras in the sorority so they can watch them at home and watch them shower, get undressed and things. And can you imagine this stuff nowadays? I mean, this movie, it's a great movie. It's a product of its time. But today you just can't get by with this stuff. I mean, they go, the alpha betas are all football players. They get some kind of liquid heat that you use in massaging and put it in their jock straps. When they go out to practice, man, they can't even, you know, their jocks are on fire. But it comes down to, you know, a bunch of shit happens. Somebody says the only way, you have to take it to the Greek Council, which is a council of fraternity and sororities. And you have to have them take care of it because it's a college thing. The police can't get involved. And mostly alpha betas and pies are running the Greek fraternity, or Greek council. So the nerds find out that whoever wins the homecoming games for the year wins control of the Greek council. So they use their intelligence and nerdiness to go out and try to beat the alpha betas and the pies and everybody else in the college, the Greek world, and try to win over the council, control the council. It leads to some really good moments. I'm not going to talk about what happens. I mean, the movie's been out for 40 years. You should have seen it by now. I'm not going to be really giving anything away if I talk about it. But I'd really like people to check it out if you haven't. If you're my age, or even if you're young and you like funny movies, it's a different kind of humor, but, I mean, it's kind of in an American Pie sort of way. But, you know, it works out. It spun off a whole series of movies. There was 4 Revenge of the Nerd movies. And the second one is actually pretty worthy. It was actually a release at the theaters. And it's pretty good. It has all the same characters except Anthony Edwards. He was in it for about 2 minutes. but it was pretty good. The third one is just kind of not so good. The nerds are grown up, and now, you know, the college is totally taken over by nerds. Yeah, I'm not going to give the plot away. It's just okay. The fourth one, not good at all. It's worth watching if you watch the other movies. If you love the nerd movies like I do, it's worth watching, but it's not great. But Revenge of the Nerds had a bunch of people in it that went on to become other people, or they already were. Anthony Edwards, who had been in several movies, but, you know, he was on ER. The Booger is one of the nerds. Dudley Dawson, but everybody calls him Booger because he constantly picks his nose. That's played by Curtis Armstrong, who was in Risky Business and Better Off Dead. He's been in a bunch of movies and things, but right now you'd know him from... He does one of the voices on American Dad. You know, this guy's like 60 or 60-something years old, doing a voice on American Dad, and still sounds like a kid. I think it's Snots, maybe that's his name, which is a kind of a joke on him being Booger. But he went to do that. The lead football player, the Alpha Beta, is Stan Gable, and I really can't think of his name, his real life name, but he played Jefferson Darcy on Married with Children. So, you know, I love Jefferson. Married with Children's a whole nother thing. He was also in the Cunninghams, or Happy Days. He took over for Richie when Richie left on the show. He came in as Richie's cousin to stay with the Cunninghams and was a teacher, and him and Fonzie were teachers. There was other people in the movie. The football player's coach was John Goodman. And he'd been in stuff before, but that was the first thing that I'd ever seen him in, and I absolutely hated him. Just for the way that he acts in the movie, which means he did a good job. You know, that's how you're supposed to feel about him, and it means he did a good job. He's like the bad guy in wrestling. But John Goodman, of course, went on to be in Roseanne, and you know how many movies he's been in, umpteen movies, Big Lebowski. So he was in it, and someone else I was going to name off. Oh, the dad, the nerd's dad. He's only in it for a few minutes in the beginning, but he does come back in the later movies to play a better part. The dad is, I can't think of people's name off the top of my head, but he was on Star Trek. He was Ephraim Cochrane. It's Ephraim Cochrane, the guy who invented warp travel. So, and of course, he's been in all kinds of stuff. He played the dad in this. I got the old cruise control set at 35, son. So, Revenge of the Nerds is a good movie. It has a good plot. It has a good story. You know, it shows some titties, but it shows these nerds sticking up for themselves. It shows, you know, that people can change by some of the people that change their feelings in the movie. It was a feel-good movie, and I highly recommend it. Again, some of the stuff's a little cringy nowadays, but a lot of movies were like that from back then. You just gotta accept them as what they were, and know that people don't act like that now. Or at least they should. We hope they don't. So, I can talk about other Revenge of the Nerds movies. I don't know that they're really worth much of a video about them. But I'm going home now, pulling up at home. I'll add some screenshots onto this and see if we can make it something worthwhile for watching. And I appreciate anybody who watches these videos. I really appreciate you. And, you know, I'm just having fun talking and talking about things I enjoy. So thank you for watching. Thank you for everything. And I will see you soon.